Page 14. Of the land was everything. From the top. Cultural demise of agrarianism through my own inability to live an exclusively agrarian life. I can write well of what I do not like, because in some sense I have just about become exactly what I do not like. The alternate Western agrarian tradition, autarkeia, that's AUTARCHEIA. Autarkeia? Autarchia? No, I don't think so. Autonomy, localism, and shame, which was always at war with our urban genius for materialism, uniformity, and entitlement, now has more or less lost out. It has always lost out, just as the polis has always given way to the kingdom, republic to empire, culture to civilization. They put too much responsibility on us, these voluntary checks on acquisition and consumption, on efficiency and bounty itself. The middling agrarian, whose age-old role was to preserve Plato's solitary Superman. Solitary Superman. Who would live by natural law alone, now gives way to the contemporary man of desires. The latter is full of reason of sorts, but without spirit, and uses his knowledge mostly to seek complacency among his bounty. This contemporary clerk, teacher, salesman, or bureaucrat is everything the farmer is not: mobile, material, careful, and timid, at peace with security, sameness, petty reputation, and complacency, glad for an endless existence of leisure and affluence without the interruption of strife or discord, knows always to the scent of cash and pleasure. He wants liberty, but too often liberty for indulgence alone, and then is surprised that when such commensurate license is extended to the less fortunate, they shoot and inject rather than show a taste for industry. Agrarianism was such a brief interlude between savagery and decadence. It was such a hard teacher of the human condition. Mr. Crèvecoeur, still stuck on it. Crèvecoeur. I fear we of the present age are now creating our own new American man, but it has nothing to do with either agriculture or the larger idea of an independent and empowered citizen. Rather, the new American will largely be a suburban creature to whom land will be nothing. He is surrendering his independence, his very will, in order to be liked, taken care of, and satisfied. This would-be man of action, who idealizes a savage nature, but only at a very safe distance. Food, clothing, cars, all material goods are simply things to be had on the mall shelf, with not a worry where they came from or why and how they are here, with the assurance that they will be there somehow, with little physical challenge left to Western man's existence, with the assurance that all things must and can be as he wishes, that nothing is really his fault, and convinced that nature is kind and will always be at his call, the new American, there has been none quite like him in the long history of civilization, at last will receive what he wanted. Americans, your cropland will be rented out to broke serfs and thriving corporations alike. Land will be lived on by harried commuters. Land will be gardened, and it will be occasionally used by clever and tireless entrepreneurs to supply fresh fruit to nearby urban markets. To the untrained eye, land that is not urbanized will have lost its cultural value, even as it appears pretty much the same as farmland always has. But is it the same? Will it serve a larger purpose beyond the production of food? Will it provide an increasingly rare impediment to what we are becoming? I think not. There was food being grown on land surrounding the Greek city-state in the classical age, and on that same land, food was still being grown for the Greeks in the centuries after, but the way in which that farmland was used, owned, and settled did not remain the same. And so, there was not always a city-state. But you see, the Greeks believed that the land produced not simply food, but also the free and good citizen. Collective farming in the ancient Greek world sustained the Mycenaean palace, feudalism, the Dark Ages, corporate agriculture, Hellenistic despotism, agrarianism alone, the polis. The old conception of an entire family, grandparents, parents, and children, living from nothing other than the fruits of their labor, raising, not surviving by selling, produce, passing on a successful livelihood to sons and granddaughters, conveying ideas of independence, shame, and skepticism, and criticizing both the bookish and weak, and the robust and ignorant, will disappear. Indeed, it already has. And so I wonder, was the agrarian tradition of Western culture the sum total of millions of mostly unknown existences and personal tragedies, of lost crops and ruined lives, all for this? Was the agrarian character of Mr. Jefferson's America to evolve only to give us the abundance, convenience, and freedom that we might become what we are? Was that what family farming of Mr. Crevecoeur's age was all for? Was Mr. Crevecoeur's yeoman to lead us to what we are now at the millennium? Other good souls still bravely resist. Their attempts to recreate rural farming communities, to share in neighborly agrarian enterprises, and to forge farm communalism are noble and needed enterprises. Yet something will bother us about many of them. We will, in secret, confess that they are a bit scholastic. They are without the challenge and disaster of the past. This alternate agriculture of the organic gardener and suburban homesteader will be contrived by those whose daily survival and capital are really found elsewhere, rather than in the spontaneous enterprises of working farmers. In the century to come, treatises on resource management, indeed on the beauty and serenity of farming itself, will proliferate in inverse proportion to the demise of family farms. Well-meaning, but dare I say, intellectually disingenuous souls will praise and romanticize family farming, but fear to say it is gone. Such a literature will be artificial, largely the product of those with access to off-farm capital, or who for the most part were not born into or are a part of working farms, and who write for an elite even more removed than they from the land. Bib overalls, straw hats, folk music, the hoe, scythe, and horse, rural and informal parlance, howdy, folks, and you all. They misspelled y'all. Will be mere symbols of a conscious but less than genuine attempt to recapture what we have lost. Et in Arcadia ego.